Hello and welcome, race fans, to another episode of After the Checkered Flag with Paige Johnson. We've got a packed show today with notes on the NASCAR Cup Series race at Iowa and a crazy finish for the Formula One McLarens in Budapest. Let's dive right into everything that went down this weekend on both sides of the racing world. To start off, we've got the short track known as Iowa Speedway posed new challenges for these NASCAR drivers this weekend with newly paved corners and wide open strategy for these teams. Many drivers throughout the weekend had grip issues, including Kyle Busch in the number 8 car in practice, with some chattering in the car, and Denny Hamlin with a couple spins during the race. But fuel strategy is really what won this race this weekend, and it was a close one right up until the end. So let's get into qualifying and the early race. Chase Briscoe was on pole once again. It's the second week in a row with the number 19 fastest in the qualifying. He dominated a good chunk of stage 2 and he ran in the top 5 for most of the race, but he came up just barely short again with a second place finish. I think these guys are going to need to start watching out for Chase Briscoe coming up because he's had some great runs and finishes lately, and I think he's going to continue to give these front runners a run for their money. All right, let's talk about Brad Keselowski in the number 6, who ran up front battling with William Byron all throughout stage 1 for 42 laps and finally overtook him to win stage 1 for his first stage win of the season. He couldn't quite hold on though during the stage break with the slowest pit stop of the top 18 drivers, but that did not stop him from coming back and winning the second stage of the day, making it his first time since 2019 sweeping the stages in a race. He dominated pretty much the entire race with those leaders, but unfortunately he could not fend off William Byron and Chase Briscoe, so it was a sad day for the number 6, who is far enough below the playoff cut line that he is in a must-win situation, and a third place finish just isn't enough. But the Hendrick drama begins. Kyle Larson starting in third place, hoping to have a bit of a better run at Iowa this year. As last year, he was fast until he crashed, ending his day. He didn't have much of a better day at Iowa this weekend and even bumped back and forth with his teammate Chase Elliott a little bit at the end, with both drivers racing hard against each other. I'm sure they'll have, some words for each other in their next Hendrick Motorsports meeting, but hopefully that's water under the bridge going into Watkins Glen. Now let's talk about Chase Elliott. The number 9 was looking for some stage points to help hold off his Hendrick Motorsports teammates and to get him some more playoff points, because before this race he only stood at 6, which is where he currently stands after the Iowa Speedway. Okay, let's move on to Ryan Blaney's late race surge. The reigning NASCAR Cup Series champ Ryan was the winner at the inaugural Iowa race last year, and he hoped to do it again in front of his 80 friends and family in the stands. He was quick throughout the race and really pushed forward in stage 3, hoping to catch those leaders, and with the help of about 8 cautions, he did catch them. As tires and fuel were dwindling, it was looking like he had a shot at passing these leaders, but unfortunately it was a 4th place finish for the number 12 this weekend. Now, let's talk about our winner. William Byron said that he was desperate for a win, and he got just that. He stretched his fuel just enough to get him to the end and for that post-win spin out, which is where he actually ended up running out of fuel. I cannot believe he made it. 10 laps to go. He had less than 10% of his fuel in the tank. So it was a miracle that he didn't run out of gas before that checkered flag, which would have been a heartbreaking repeat of last weekend at Indianapolis and earlier this season at Michigan. This is his second win on the season and first since the regular season opener at Daytona. He has slung himself ahead of his teammate Chase Elliott in the regular season driver points standings, now leading him by 18 points in what is now becoming known as the Battle of Hendrick Motorsports versus Denny Hamlin, because the top 3 spots on that standings list are Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, and William Byron, all teammates, and next up is Denny Hamlin. All right, that's all my news for the NASCAR Cup Series race at Iowa Speedway, but I've got to touch on some F1 race news as well, because it was a crazy race on Sunday. Starting off with Lando Norris having a bit of a rough start at this race. He made the decision to take the inside gap next to his teammate Oscar Piastri as the lights went out. But he unfortunately got backed up and stuck behind a couple of cars, dropping him from 3rd place back to 5th right at the beginning. It seemed like he couldn't catch a break, but then his team made the decision to switch him to a one-stop strategy. So they kept him out while the leaders went in for fresh tires, hoping to stretch his stint and stay in a podium contention. But honestly, the mid-race hard tires ended up being a good recovery call for Lando, because once he pitted, he was flying, holding the fastest lap for a while and charging his way back. We also need to talk about our other race leaders of the day, Oscar Piastri and Charles Leclerc. Those two led more than half of the race and were locked in a tight battle up front up until 3/4 of the way through, when Leclerc started to drop off. He was not thrilled with Ferrari's strategy decisions that day, and it really showed over the radio. He had some words. He was very unhappy towards the end of this race. But it ended up turning into the McLaren show for the last 10 laps, and what a race it was. The teammates went head-to-head for the final 5 laps, racing each other hard, but Lando managed to hold Oscar off for an unexpected and extremely well-deserved win. Another 1-2 McLaren finish for Team CEO Zach Brown, with Lando taking 1st, Oscar 2nd, and the Mercedes of George Russell coming home in 3rd with a really solid drive. An absolutely stellar day for Lando, one of his best wins yet, and it puts him just 9 points behind his teammate Oscar in the Drivers' Championship standings. Well, that's going to do it for this week's episode of After the Checkered Flag. From fuel drama and teammate tension in Iowa to a McLaren masterclass in Hungary, it was a weekend packed with strategy, stories, and some serious shakeups across both series. William Byron gets his redemption, Chase Briscoe knocking on the door, and Hendrick boys are heating up. And in F1, Lando Norris takes a brilliant win, while McLaren makes another bold statement in the championship fight. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'll be back next week to break it all down after the checkered flag drops in Watkins Glen.